Before World War II, international relations between the great powers were tense. Japan, with its policy of territorial expansion, occupied Manchuria, 1931, and waged a full-scale war with China, 1937. Japan's goal was to seize the rich natural resources of this region to serve its war machine. The United States, as an emerging power, was increasingly concerned about Japan's expansion. With its open-door policy in China, the United States opposed Japan's aggression and responded with economic sanctions, including an embargo on oil and steel, two important resources for Japan. This made relations between the two countries increasingly tense and led to an inevitable conflict. 1.2 Japan's plan of attack. Faced with isolation and a lack of vital resources, Japan decided it had to act to defend and expand its territory. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, head of the Imperial Japanese Navy, realized that war with the United States was inevitable. To gain an initial advantage, he planned a preemptive strike on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in the hope of crippling U.S. naval power in the Pacific. The attack plan, codenamed Operation Z, aimed to destroy or severely weaken the U.S. Pacific Fleet, including the battleships and aircraft carriers anchored at Pearl Harbor. In this way, Japan hoped to gain time to seize resource-rich territories in Southeast Asia and consolidate its forces before the United States could respond. 2. The attack on Pearl Harbor. 2.1 The attack. On the morning of December 7, 1941, 6 Japanese aircraft carriers under the command of Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo approached Pearl Harbor undetected. The first wave of attacks, consisting of 183 bombers, torpedo bombers, and fighters, began at 7:48 a.m. These aircraft targeted the American battleships on Battleship Row and the surrounding military airfields. 2.1.1 Attacks on battleships. The primary targets of the first wave of attacks were the American battleships anchored at Pearl Harbor. The USS Arizona, a Pennsylvania-class battleship, was hit by a 1,700-pound bomb that penetrated the deck and exploded in the ammunition magazine. The massive explosion sank the ship immediately and killed more than 1,100 sailors. The USS Oklahoma was also a victim of the attack. The ship was hit by 5 torpedoes and quickly capsized, killing 429 sailors. Other battleships such as the USS West Virginia, USS California, and USS Nevada were also severely damaged. Of the 8 battleships present at Pearl Harbor, 4 were sunk, and the rest were damaged. 2.1.2 Attacks on air bases. The first wave of attacks also targeted the air bases at Pearl Harbor. Hickam Field, Wheeler Field, and Kaneohe Bay were all heavily attacked. Dozens of American aircraft were destroyed on the ground, effectively neutralizing the American Air Force in Hawaii from the start. This ensured that American air defenses could not effectively respond to the Japanese attacks. 2.2 Second wave. About an hour later, a second wave of 170 aircraft continued to attack the remaining targets. Although not as devastating as the first wave, this attack still destroyed many more American warships and military infrastructure. On Battleship Row, battleships such as the USS California, USS Maryland, and USS West Virginia continued to be attacked. In addition, cruisers and destroyers were also targeted by the second wave of attacks. In total, 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and 1 anti-submarine ship were sunk or severely damaged. The American losses after the attack were very serious. 2,403 people died, 1,178 were wounded, and more than 300 aircraft were destroyed or damaged. 2.3 Losses and psychological impact. The attack on Pearl Harbor caused heavy losses for the United States. 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, 4 destroyers, and more than 180 aircraft were destroyed or severely damaged. Fortunately, however, the U.S. aircraft carriers, Japan's main target, were not in port at the time and were not damaged. This would have a major impact on subsequent campaigns in the Pacific. For Japan, the attack was considered a major tactical victory. However, it failed to achieve its strategic goal of completely crippling the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Moreover, the attack awakened a sleeping giant, the United States, and pushed the country into the war with fierce determination. Thank you for watching the entire video. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and a subscription to the channel.